You've made it to the last session. Welcome to session 10. Woo! You did it. In today's session, we're going to be wrapping up this series, and I'm so excited to share with you this last little bit of great information so that you can walk away fully equipped with these skills and tools to be able to lead a classroom in a way that cultivates that compassionate culture that we've been building on. Today's session, we're going to talk about the skill of consequences, and the power behind that is the power of intention. We know that consequences, are a thing, but what conscious discipline teaches is that consequences are an opportunity to learn something from a mistake. And fully understanding that, we're going to talk a lot today about just that power of intention. With that formula saying, you may blank or blank if you do this, and cultivate kind of that end result of that problem solving piece. I think I shared with you early on that there's been several times, even in parent trainings, where, and even myself as a parent, always wanting to know, what night are we going to talk about, or what session are we going to talk about consequences? What can I take away from my kid because they're not listening? Can I take the Xbox away? Can I do these kinds of things? When we're in a classroom setting, it's, there will be consequences for breaking the rules, or a certain behavior tends to be punished instead of shifting to what is your intent behind. And so we've been building on these skills. We've been talking a lot about our intent is to teach. Our intent is to coach with empathy and understanding those emotions. And all of these skills are building upon each other as we build each session, to where when you're looking at consequences today, you're going to look at them from a different lens, and really looking at it from the power of love to say, what is my intent behind? What are we trying to teach or coach through an emotion, or if a conflict arises and we are looking for a way to resolve the conflict in a way that should be healthy. So in this session, we're going to talk about, we're thinking about the skill of consequences, or we're thinking about consequences. We want to learn from our mistakes. We want kids to learn from their mistakes. We don't want to punish them for mistakes. We want to look at them as an opportunity to learn. And it's a great reminder for us as adults to realize that whatever our intent is as teachers, as educators, our intent is to help children learn from those mistakes. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was in a classroom, and I observed a child knocking over a bucket or a little thing of paint, and the teacher just kind of had this punitive control and kind of tone that seemed a little aggressive with this particular child. And immediately when the paint kind of tipped over, you saw this sense of, his face shifted from I'm scared to I'm not really sure what's going to happen, when all reality it's just paint that spills over, and we can go and help him, or let's problem solve on a way to keep our paint in a place that's safe where it doesn't spill over. What can we do about this? So just kind of looking at it from that perspective, that's the approach I want to go to today. When we're looking at positive intent, that skill of positive intent, we want to create teachable moments. Children are going to be challenging. Children are going to be, defiant. They're going to be aggressive. It's looking at it from that lens of what is that positive intent. The intent is I'm going to come at this child in a way that is safe. I'm composed. I'm looking through my love glasses, seeing that power of love because I want to see the best in this child. As the teacher in the classroom, as the model in the classroom, as the adult in the classroom, my goal is to keep it safe. But my goal is also to use moments as opportunities to teach or coach the situation. When we're looking at it from the adult perspective versus the child, when we're talking about goals for this, as we want to, as the adult, accept the moment as it is in order to respond. We talked about that in the empathy series, and we talked about the power behind just being in that moment and accepting the moment as it is, using the wish well techniques and strategies to remind yourself that this is a moment that will pass, but you have the role to kind of help guide children through relationship with their peers, and then conflict between their peers as well. When we're thinking about the child goal, you know, we obviously want to have it developmentally appropriate, but we want to have it developmentally appropriate enough for them to use empathy for themselves and for others. So like every session, we're going to start out with our pre-learning survey. Okay. And this is our very last one as we wrap up today with our end of the series. But let's just go with this as we've been going along with each session. I really feel like you can learn a lot from just testing your prior knowledge before you get going into the session today with some good information. So we're looking at, okay, on number 1, okay, on a scale of 1 to 5, again, 5 being you strongly agree, 1 being you strongly disagree, and 3 kind of being in the middle. Okay, disconnected children are dangerous. 1 being strongly disagree, 5 being strongly agree, and then 3 in the middle. Okay, number 2, consequences and punishment are the same. Consequences and punishment are the same. Number 3, from a state of powerlessness, we are prone to blame and attack. From a state of powerlessness, we are prone to blame and attack. You finish your work or you can miss recess time. Is a true choice? This is review from the last session. You finish your work or you can miss recess is a true choice. And number 5, consequences do not teach. They motivate children to use a skill. Consequences do not teach. They motivate children to use a skill. Okay, we're going to start out with this little bitty clip here of a difficult child that's challenging, has some challenging behaviors in a classroom. And she uses a visual routine book that she visits every day. And she's just going to kind of guide you through this little book just to kind of give you some ideas of things that you can maybe implement in the classroom as well.
This is what I always do with my book.
What's that book about, Zoe?
It's my book about when my teacher tells me when I do something.
So it's the book of your day, what you do every day?
Yeah.
And at the end it says, goodbye, Zoe. We wish you well.
Oh, this is all my family.
Oh, I love your family.
That's Alex. That's me. Mickey, Grandma, and Papa.
Where's James? Is James in this picture? Oh, there's James. He's your older
And
brother.
Chloe.
So as you can see, all of these things, these skills we've been building upon, and in order to be able to create a structure or something that's personalized, if you can see, that was Zoe's personal routine book to help guide her through maybe, let's say, for example, because we don't really know Zoe's situation, we don't really know how Zoe is in the classroom or things that may trigger Zoe. But we look at it from a lens of how can we use some challenging behaviors as an opportunity to have children reflect on the choices that they make so that there can be some type of behavior change. So by doing the visual book routine that is personalized for children who do have a little bit of difficulty in anything, you know, we don't know Zoe's situation, but maybe Zoe can't sit on the carpet during circle time and she hits her friends. Maybe that routine book shows Zoe what it looks like to sit on the carpet with her hands safe so we're not hurting others. You know, just giving you an idea of what that is. And then just her kind of talking about that's her family, and just kind of, that's something that's personable to her as well. But look how it's helping her reflect on some of the choices that she may make that may be consistent, that maybe is like on a typical day, you're going to see it all the time. So revisiting things, remember, children have to hear things 2,000 times in context to be able to really grasp what's going on, or remembering things, because we know their brain is not fully developed anyway. So they are learning as they go. So really looking at it from that lens. And this is just a great, I want to share this video with you to show you just a neat way that you can implement a real quick routine book with real pictures in there of the child actually doing appropriate behavior versus behavior that it's not acceptable in the classroom. When we're thinking about that power of intention, so we know that the powers are what helps us with the skill, right? We know that the powers are for the adults. So when we're thinking about that power of intention, we're looking at consequences. They happen all the time. When we're dealing with consequences, our intent determines how the child views the mistake. Meaning, what is our intent? If we go back to our love glasses, is our intent to punish a child for spilling the paint? If our intent is to punish the child for spilling the paint, then how are they going to view their mistakes? They're going to view their mistakes as, I can't do anything right. I am just not good enough. I can say for myself personally, when mistakes were made growing up from a very early age, even into my middle and high school years, a lot of times I was punished. Things were taken away. I was grounded. And not saying that I didn't, turn out well, because that happened, but I know that the approach that my parents used was not this approach. It wasn't an opportunity. They didn't view mistakes that had happened or bad choices that I had made as opportunities to teach all the time. Sometimes they did use it as an opportunity to teach, and sometimes I was punished immediately. And so a lot of that is when we're looking at mistakes, think about mistakes that you guys have made throughout your years from a very early age and then on to now, even into your adulthood. And how do you view your mistakes? Have you made a mistake today? And what have you told yourself? Your inner speech dictates, what you feel about yourself. You knock over a thing of coffee in the kitchen and you're like, oh, I'm so stupid, God, and, you punish yourself, other than looking at it as, okay, what could I have done differently? A lot of times us as adults, we don't stop in that moment to ask ourselves that, what could I have done differently? Well, I probably could have put it in a travel mug instead of a real coffee mug from my house. That's a true story that happens all the time, with me. And so have I learned anything? Obviously not. So reminding myself, and looking at it from that lens too, because children are going to be the same way. When we're thinking about that power of intention, we want to remember that, the children, they're in an emotional state, and when they're in an emotional state, and we have in our head, oh, we got to get to consequences. We got to get there. If we don't use the skills that are built upon like empathy and encouragement and allowing choices for kids, if we don't practice those skills first, we can't pull them up in the executive state in that prefrontal lobe of their brain, because they're still stuck in, well, you don't love me mode. Okay. The child who spills the paint, if we look at it from that approach as they're crying and we're going, well, you shouldn't have done that. You set the paint there and knocked it over and look what happened. You see how the child stays in that emotional state. We can't get up to consequences in that prefrontal lobe. You yourself as the teacher, as the adult, you are not in the prefrontal lobe of your brain. Remember, we've said over and over again, you can't be in a lower state than the child or we will not get successfully up to the top floor. Okay. Remembering that children must see a consequence when they are in the executive state of the brain. I will never forget, and this is just a story that really sticks with me. When there was a situation at school, this is when my son was probably in first grade, and I got a phone call during the day with the vice principal of the school had called me. And long story short, he had repeated something. My son had repeated something on the bus from an older child that was inappropriate to a group of girls. Now, as a first grade little boy, he had no idea what he said. He's just repeating what another child had said. And so my first reaction was, here goes the pitter patter. I'm triggered. I'm angry that my child, who's just perfect, would never say any, or would say something so horrible. So in the meantime, as this is happening and I'm processing this, I get off the phone, I call my husband, I tell my husband about it. He's mad, I'm mad, nobody wins, we're still mad about it. And so I really had to, and this is the beginning of my conscious discipline journey. And I'll never forget, I reached out to my mentor, who I love very dearly, Vicki Hepler, who is a master conscious discipline instructor. And, you know, I just kind of shared the situation with her. And I said to her, I really want to help Will, my son Will, through this in a way, in a conscious discipline way. And I'm needing some guidance. I'm not really sure what to do with this. I want to help him through this, but I'm really just, you know, I'm upset about what happened. And so I'll never forget, she said to me, Jess, he's already suffered the consequence. He's been in the principal's office. And that was probably really scary for him. Okay. So your approach, right, is how can we view this as an opportunity to learn something? Okay. It was a mistake. Something was said. How can I use this as a teachable moment? And I'll never forget her saying that to me. And I thought, that's it. Like I've got to do that. And so I'm, you know, just going back to remember that. And it ended up being a situation where we talked about it. He came home, he was in an emotional state because he knew that we were going to talk about it. He had been thinking about it all day. And right away, I noticed he was in an emotional state. I was in an emotional state because I was seeing him so upset. And we didn't talk about it right away because he was stuck in that emotional state just as well as myself. And if we had gone there and talked about it, nothing would have gotten resolved. So really kind of going back to that, I can't use it as the adult. I can't teach consequences myself if I am triggered or if I'm in an emotional state. So remembering that it's not worth trying to get to that point of pushing it to the executive state of the prefrontal lobe of the brain if the child is stuck there in emotional state. So we're thinking about types of intent. I mentioned earlier, intent to punish. That's that punitive intent. Go to your room, go to timeout. Yesterday I was in a classroom and I heard, you know, if you don't put your socks on right now, we're not going outside. You know, that very much that just punitive, it's a threat. It's an intent to punish a child because they're not listening, or maybe they just need some extra time to put on their shoes and socks. It's getting on their level. A lot of time that punitive intent looks like this. I see that in my house a lot too. And the goal here, when we're thinking about what is the goal here, you know, we're thinking about intend to teach, but the goal is we want to punish, we want to make the child feel bad for what they did rather than to teach, right? And so what does that look like? What's that translate into? It teaches children how they should feel, and it's saying you should feel bad and you should be ashamed for this, okay? It shifts the focus from what they are feeling to how it should be, right? The socks for a scenario, for example, you know, if you're going to do this or you're not doing this. So it says, you know, if you don't do this now, then I'm shifting your focus to, you know, you're going to be this way. And it's blaming others. So in that sense, the child who needs a little bit of help or extra time to put on the shoes and socks to go outside, how can we get to that wraparound where we can not make the child feel bad or punish them for taking their shoes and socks off? Because let's be honest, I love taking my shoes and socks off. You know, maybe they just like having their shoes off, you know, just kind of looking at it from that lens, shifting the focus of not blaming the child. Oh, we're going to be late to recess because you can't get your socks and shoes on quick enough, right? And looking at it as an opportunity to teach. So instead of shifting to, instead of that intent to punish, we can look at it from this perspective. I've noticed, see how we're building on these skills, say his name or her name. I've noticed that when it's time to get ready to go outside, you have your shoes and socks off. And it's really important, you know, that's not safe to walk around without your shoes and socks. Do you need socks off? Do you need a little bit more time? The child says yes, and a little bit. Okay, what can we do? Maybe we could give you a 5-minute warning, you know, before we get ready to go outside so that you have extra time. Do you see how we're problem solving? I'm staying in the prefrontal lobe of my brain. I'm not emotional. I'm not letting this child ruin my day. All of these skills that we've been talking about happens just that quick in a matter of seconds. Permissive intent, okay? Well, that's the intent to rescue, okay? Not following through with the consequence. Those are the empty threats, right? I hear that a lot. If you don't do this, I'm taking this away. It's to completely eliminate the feelings of taking that voidance away and that pain of the consequence, right? Permissive or passive parents, passive tone. I don't want to deal with conflict. A lot of parents that don't want to deal with conflict in either any of their children are going to use that permissive intent. It's not following through with the consequence. It's, if you don't do this, I'm going to take this away. If you don't get better grades, or if you don't bring that D to a C, then there goes the Xbox, okay? Not following through. What's the result? It teaches children not to trust themselves, okay? It shifts the focus from the issue to avoiding the punishment. So the issue is your grades are bad, and it's not focusing on the punishment. When the adult gets to that point, okay, when they are avoiding conflict, they're teaching children to avoid conflict, okay? And it shields them. What this says is it shields them from that opportunity to look at their mistakes as a learning opportunity. View their mistakes as a lens to learn something. How can we do it different? This happened. Let's talk about it. How can we do it different? Okay. When we're thinking about intent to teach, which is where we want to be, okay, you got to have your love glasses on. Your intent to teach is exactly where we want to shift to. It's the prerequisite for children to learn new behaviors when they're faced with the consequence of their action. And the main goal and the main focus is to teach what actually happened. Listing, mapping, doing these things. When you did this, this happened. How can we do it this way? We want children to reflect. We want children to talk about it. If you've got kiddos in your classroom where their language is fully developed, you've got the older kids, they can go back and forth and have a conversation about what skills do we want children to learn. There are tons of skills and executive functioning skills that children need to learn, right? Do they all have them mastered by kindergarten? Absolutely not. So this is an opportunity in this short span of time that they may be in your classroom for 12 months, 10 months, whatever the case may be, 9 months. And it's what skills can I teach them before they go off to the next class or go off to kindergarten or whatever the case may be. It's your shifting. And here's the thing. Bottom line is when you're thinking about consequences, okay, when you know that this stuff is really working, okay, and you've really grasped the concept of practicing these skills for yourself first and then modeling for kiddos. And you will know, you will feel that conscious discipline aha moment, right? When you try to teach consequences through using it with an intent to teach, and it works successfully, and everybody feels part of the family, and they don't feel punished, and they don't feel excluded, and they're all a part of their family, and they're all learning something new. You've used all of those skills that we have literally been building upon, and you're accessing your prefrontal lobe of your brain so that you are fully aware that your intent, no matter what, is your intent to teach, right? You got to see a child through the power of love. Right? A disconnected child is a disengaged child, right? A disengaged child is a disconnected child. We want to give children the skills to be successful, right? We go into education for a lot of reasons, and that's one of them, right? When we're thinking about effective consequences, think about us, okay? How many times have you punished yourself for doing something? You go on a diet, you're trying to eliminate alcohol from your diet. You've done really good all week, and on Friday night, you celebrate with a glass of wine, maybe a bottle of wine. You've punished yourself, right? The intent is I've got to stop, right? Or vice versa. I've stayed up too late, crashing for an exam. I'm exhausted. What can I learn from this? I'm just going to punish myself. It's fine, right? But looking at it from that lens, because if you don't practice that for yourself, how you view consequences and mistakes for yourself, because we all make mistakes, then you're not going to be able to coach kids where we need to coach them. If you're following, if you're using conscious discipline and 100% love it, and just see the power behind it and see the beauty behind it and the impact that it can make on not only just these children, but families as well. Thinking about, we want that internal state within us to make that feel motivated, right? Again, looking in the fridge and going, gosh, I really want that pizza from last night, because let's be honest, cold pizza the next day is amazing no matter what, but I really should eat the fruits and vegetables. I'm going for the pizza. Punish yourself, right? The consequence is what? I've ate too much and I feel like this, right? How many times does that happen? We do it all the time, right? When we look at consequences, they can happen over and over again. And the reason why it is repeatable is because we have not shifted our focus. Our focus tends to be, or think that the consequence of an action is the result of an action, right? It's not how you feel about the result, okay? For example, the consequence for not studying for a test is you fail the test. The consequence is you feel horrible about the outcome. Are you okay with the scores when you don't study for a test and you crash and burn? Okay, so learning from that, right? Disencouraged children are disruptive. When we're thinking about, okay, they are disruptive. Okay, I know that coming in as an educator. Okay, what am I going to do about it? Is my intent to stop the behavior? Is my intent to control the behavior? Is my intent to teach? So that these discouraged children, right, need to be a little bit more encouraged so they're not disruptive. Shifting my perception. They're not being disruptive. They need someone like me and you, right, to look at them with the power of love, the lens that I'm going to see the best in this child. They may be lacking in some skills, but I am here to help them. Disconnected child can be dangerous. Absolutely. They can be. They can be dangerous in a classroom setting with to their peers. They can be dangerous for you. Those children are the ones that really need what? The power of connection, empathy, encouragement. Even if they make the slightest step to where we want them to go, celebrating them, right? We're thinking about how in the world do I get consequences to set in with these kids instead of my intent to punish or threaten them or whatever the case may be, or be permissive and try to make those empty threats, is looking at a mistake that says, look, I did make a mistake. How do you model that for your kids in your classroom? You're going to make, as an educator, you're going to make mistakes left and right in your classroom in front of your kids. What a perfect opportunity, a perfect platform to model, right? Oh my gosh, I made a mistake in front of your children, right? And this is just I love this. I think it's beautiful. Whoops, I made a mistake, but I'm still beautiful. Children make mistakes in the classroom. Whoops, we made a mistake, but you're still beautiful to me. Do you hear the power behind that, right? It's literally walking around with this hat on that says, I'm okay if I make a mistake. I'm going to be okay because I have a teacher, a school family, peers, friends, the janitor, the lunch lady. All of these people are cultivating this compassionate culture, and everybody's on my side. Everybody's on my team. When we're thinking about consequences. So here we're going to shift to just understanding consequences, but for our littles. So we've got like the 0 to 3s, we've got the toddlers, right? Our focus, okay, and here in its sense, this is going to be a little bit more challenging because we can't do this conflict resolution through a lot of language. It goes through a lot of modeling. The focus for this age is natural consequences and problem solving to teach the new skill. So when we're thinking about natural consequences, the natural consequences is the stove is on, you put your hand on the stove, ouch, okay? You burned your hand. Did you learn your lesson? Yep, I don't want to do that again, right? Did you like it when so-and-so pushed you? Did you like it when she pushed over your blocks? No, I didn't like it. You were hoping to, okay? Natural consequences. When we get to that problem-solving piece, that helps us in that social setting. The classroom of an early childhood classroom is a perfect opportunity to practice that self-regulation, problem-solving piece, okay? Getting to that point because you're cultivating that choice of teaching the problem-solving skills, but in a way where we can handle conflict in a healthier way. When we look at logical consequences, we go, hey, I don't really know about that because I don't think they've really understood or internalized the skill. Okay. Logical motivates us to stop the skill that you've already possessed. So that sounds like you have a choice. Okay. We've eliminated all the possibilities, but you've had a choice. You can sit here at your desk with your eyes on your own paper and write on your paper, or you can scribble on your friend's paper and you'll remove yourself and come over here and sit by yourself. Do you see this? I can see, and it's just so wordy. You're going to do this or this, but it's teaching us to stop a behavior and not coach or teach around this, not focus on the specific behavior. It's focusing on how can we help learn from this mistake. Okay. Again, example, right? Being, you may not throw your blocks. Okay. This is exactly what this sounds like. Instead of saying, stop throwing the blocks, you're going to hurt somebody. You may not throw the blocks again. Do we end there? No, because we want to use it as a learning opportunity. You will not play with them for the rest of the day. Okay. Taking things away, punitive. What is my intent? Let's circle back around. Let's get on that toddler's level. Let's figure out why they're throwing the blocks instead of trying to take the blocks away. Toddlers, especially younger, toddler to 3 years old, we've got to build on some language skills. That's when we say, hey, turn to her, tap her on the shoulder, say, may I have a turn, please? And practicing that back and forth exchange and really promoting that parallel play. We're thinking about logical consequences, okay? We're thinking, okay, logical consequences only work with children who've shown repeatedly that they've desired behavior. Most importantly, they want to feel connected, okay? So it's a behavior that you see repeatedly over and over time, and you know the answer is they're just looking for a way to connect, okay? So how do we do that? We look at a skill, we go, hey, they're missing a skill they need to be connected with. So how do we respond? Instead of making the situation worse, we respond with, oh my gosh, they're missing a skill. Okay, let's go back and teach this. You were wanting to go outside quicker, so you took off your shoes and socks because you told me you ran barefoot by yourself, or you run barefoot quicker. That's why you took off your shoes and socks, wasn't it? Child says, yeah. Well, we can't walk outside without our shoes and socks because that's not safe. You hear that approach, right? Again, taking a situation, looking at a child who may be missing something or just flat out looking for connection and give them some connection, right? Let's look at real quick. I'm going to stop sharing this and I want to pull up this really great resource here. Let me show you. And I have not had a lot of opportunity to go through the Conscious Discipline website with you, but I do want to take you to this piece in the portal because this is a great resource for you all to check out in your own time. But if you go into the book portal and you look up, I think this is so great. I've been mentioning over and over again these executive skills, right? And so we know that these executive skills build upon skills that we want children to learn and really get a full understanding of all of these skills, right? And we know that the executive skills are attention, time management, organization, impulse control, empathy, metacognition. Okay, so if you're thinking about that, I want you to go in a little bit further into the executive skills lending library. I wanted to show you this today. I think it's so cool. But if you go into that lending library and you scroll down, it's going to take you with each domain, each skill, and it's going to give you just a little bit of a snapshot of some information. So say, for example, the first one is attention. So it breaks down just a couple little tidbits on what can I use during this, what strategies or skills can I use, what's this look like as far as teaching it. And then it shows you a video or two, some of them have more than one, that models this for you. This one specifically in attention is a teen or like a fourth grader using the kindness recorder, and how this and if you look up the little snapshot before that, it talks about how how attention in this video, how this can help promote this, noticing and describing during children's play. So I'm going to play this one. I want you to listen to the teacher as she's giving him a play-by-play, and she's practicing that skill of noticing and describing for him as he's playing.
Start following each other. Oh, here comes Skipper. Here comes Skipper.
Did you notice how they made eye contact as she would go round and round and round, boop, and make a smile or a little gesture, and then he would make eye contact with her. So right away, she's trying to build on skills. And if you can hear towards the end, she introduces herself. So you can tell that she's trying to make a connection with this this little boy. And so this is just a strategy you use as you're practicing these skills to make those elements that make those opportune times to connect. Again, this one's really good. The baby doll circle time, we're talking about attention and focus. There's a whole unit on attention and focus and impulse control in the baby doll circle time curriculum. But as Dr. Bailey teaches it, she does that attunement where she's got the baby here and the baby goes up and down, the baby goes up and down. Right? And every time we make that motion or that sound, we bring in the eye contact. So you may have a child who's taking their baby doll and they're kind of, dangling it upside down, instead of making it go up and down. And we're, practicing that impulse control, that eye contact, that attention and that focus to bring that child's eye contact back where it needs to be, instead of punishing the child for taking their baby and holding it the way that it shouldn't be held. I'm going to go ahead and show you this one just because I think it's a good video.
My baby's sitting down. There, you had to figure it out with yours. Yeah. My baby's sitting down. This is my baby. My baby's sitting down. We're gonna change. My baby's up high. My baby's up high. This is my baby. My baby's up high. Okay, now watch this. I'm gonna fix the legs. Oh, watch that. My baby's jumping up. My baby's jumping up. This is my baby. My baby's jumping up.
All right, so I'll scroll down here just to kind of show you. This one's really good for older kids as far as implementing the time machine. A lot of people think, a lot of middle school teachers have said, this is babyish, conscious discipline is for the littles, and it really isn't. And there's great resources on here for anybody who's interested in teaching middle grades and even into secondary, into high school, using these ways. It's just got to be tweaked a little bit. It's not so cutesy with all the different structures, but it can be tweaked as well. Again, so scrolling down, you've got the time management, organization. You click on here. And it shows you some videos that's going to help you just kind of see this in place. So just kind of viewing this, I really encourage you to kind of go in there so you can get a refresher, really focusing on the executive functioning skills, but looking at this as a great resource just to see things modeled for when you're thinking about what actually implementing this or looking at it in the classroom setting. Okay. Stop sharing there. Go back to a PowerPoint here. So I really encourage you to check out that resource. It's great. You could spend a lot of time in there. So I want to share with you this video here as we're trying to wrap up a little bit of the end of this session. I really think it's a powerful message, and just we'll talk more as soon as it's over. So together we can make a difference. And what's been so cool about this is that we have been on kind of on this journey together in a virtual world. So I want to personally thank you for just taking the time to be a part of this experience, even though it was through virtual. I cannot express any more gratitude, and I'm just completely blessed and humbled, actually, to be a part of just your journey as newly new educators, and thinking about, you know, the type of classrooms and environments that you want your little ones to just thrive in. I'm overjoyed to be able to share my passion with you, and it excites me to know that there's future teachers out in the world who are going to just shine and have all of these skills and just create just such a beautiful space for children, and not only children, but to bless families as well. So I thank you very much for adding me to your journey, and for this opportunity. And I just want to thank you. So with that being said, until maybe someday we see you again, have a great day. And thank you so much for everything. Good luck.